Oh God. I just don't need to say anymore. Just like everybody's gonna be happy. It's funny now we do the other shows, and there's a few guys who are like, "Where's Jill? Where's Jill?"
That's so great. I'll have to join in one time.
Actually, we do need to really think through the logic of putting you on the Thursday show. That could cause a lot of problems, but it'd be very entertaining, I'm sure. All right, so everybody, in case you do not know, this is Jillian A. Brown, become a good friend of mine here. I admire her a great deal. I saw her post a video on a friend of ours, very emotional and motivational video. Jill is very open about her story. She was in an abusive relationship several years ago, left with about $300 in her pocket, bought a tent for $60. On the side and slept there for 7 months with her dog, was diagnosed with PTSD because all the stuff she'd been through, and then has helped herself and has helped many other people now too. So very inspirational. So we first met, she was living on an island all by herself, Race Rock. How are you, Jillian?
I'm fantastic. I miss it. I miss
Do you miss Race Rock
so much?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was hard to leave. Going from somewhere like that where you're immersed in wildlife for one, and totally isolated, completely alone, other than my supervisor dropping groceries off, guaranteed once a week I'd see somebody. But having you can't just go to a grocery store. You can't just even go for a walk and bump into people. It's just you and over 1,600 sea lions. So you really don't feel alone at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get into like such a good routine, and there's not the stress of regular life. You have stresses, of course, out there because of the sea lions and the work that you're doing out there. But it's just so different, and it's really overwhelming coming from there to civilization, and then to have other things go on at that time, of course, which added to it. So I was a little overwhelmed. So sorry for missing last week, but I definitely was needing to sort out life after that.
Well, I won't get into too many details, but so Jillian gets home from her Race Rock, has to get to the ferry where takes the ferry, has to get to her car. And on the drive home in her car, the car decided it did not want to run anymore.
Oh, Brett, and we should add in that I just bought the car.
That's right.
It is a brand new car. Like,
but you
had only had it for a month, and it blew up. Yeah.
I was trying to gently give you advice to help you. Like I was impressed. So you really you handled it. You didn't seem like, maybe you were stressed, but you handled it all right.
Oh, yeah, God. I was pretty upset. I was not happy. Yeah. But I had got a really good support system since kind of leaving the camp and that relationship and everything a couple months ago. Right. The way that all went down, it resulted in a lot of people really that I wasn't expecting really becoming family through that, because they then experienced what I had kind of gone through. So they've all been there for me like crazy. So I got a lot of phone calls right away from people being like, holy shit, are you okay? Like, do you need a ride? What can we do? Like, I wish that happened while you were still on the island so I could help you, all sorts of stuff, which really helped me kind of deal with that. And then I always view things as I try to view things as like a sign. And that vehicle I was never super happy with. It was just I kind of was forced. I had to get a vehicle. And that vehicle was kind of the only one that would work for what I needed and was available and kind of within a price point that was in any way a possibility for me. So to have it blow up and have it blow up in the dealership that I got it from, take responsibility for it, equaled me getting my dream vehicle.
Got back to the Jeep.
Yeah.
Well, and I was pretty impressed, as you know, too, at the dealership, because I have had some negative interactions with car dealerships, but they really stepped up and were good. And I was impressed.
I was pretty worried. We all thought it was just like an alternator that went on it, because it had been sitting for so long. It would make sense that the battery was totally dry, which could screw up an alternator, that side of things. So everyone was like, it's okay, Jill, alternators aren't that expensive. It'll be fine. If you have to pay for it, don't worry. Like, you'll be able to deal with that. And then when the dealership owner shows up to my house and asks me to start it, we put the battery in and start it. And he's like, your engine blew up. And I'm like, oh, okay. So there goes all the money that I had. Plus I'm still in debt to some friends for buying that vehicle. Plus now I don't have a vehicle, so I can't go work to make, like, I was kind of in shock and I was speechless. And the dealership owner, he had gotten some pretty angry voice messages of it breaking, and it had some electrical issues before that. Oh. So I had left a voicemail and then he didn't get back to me. Ooh. So I was like extra angry because I'm like, okay, you have a client who's given you money, bought this vehicle, and you're saying you're too busy with customers. I'm like, deal with the client that you already have. You've got the money. Like, I feel like that's kind of a bit of a priority. But anyways, he was really impressed. He's like, thank you for not losing your shit on me when you found out that this vehicle blew up. And I think if I had handled it in an angry way, I think the reaction from him wouldn't have been so immediately like, don't worry, we're either putting a brand new engine in this, or you can trade it in and we still have that Jeep that we talked about before, and you'll trade it in for the same price I gave you and the same deal I talked to you about before, which worked out. So Dream Jeep.
He's a human being. Yeah. If you'd lost your mind on him, then he would have felt like he had to defend himself or something. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I really lost my mind. Yeah. So what are you doing now? So what we talk about, you actually, if you go to Jill's on LinkedIn, she's posted some of her stuff. She's been commissioned to do some artwork too. So the dog one, that was interesting. So was that somebody's dog that you had a picture of, that you drew a picture, that you painted?
Yeah. Yeah. So they'll either ask me to do, whether it be like, oh, someone wants a painting of killer whales, or generally commission pieces are something personal. So it's a photo of their dog in some way. So they'll send the image or images, and I will draw it or paint it, whichever means they would like. Cool. Yeah, so I've got a bunch of them right now, which is amazing to get that back.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's all because you're on the show. You're on the show. That's why you're getting all this work. Probably, except nobody down in like New York area or anywhere like that has booked. So maybe we'll have to get you down here and going on a tour. Right? Hi, Jerry Dog. There's a dog in my house now, which is so amazing. Good. Yeah, you love your dogs. Did I tell you? I don't know if I should even bring this up to you, because I know how much you love dogs. And I love dogs too. I love dogs just as much. But in my condominium complex, did I tell you about our dog issue? No. I want to hear it. So it's a condominium complex, and it allows dogs, obviously. And probably half the people have dogs, and half people don't. And a lot of the dogs are... now, when you have dogs, do you discipline your dogs pretty good? Yeah, if need to be. Yeah. Okay. But it depends on, we could go on for hours about dog training if you wanted. So a lot of the people, there's a few of the people here, and they're very nice older women who are widowed, and they've got the small little dogs that's their family. And they treat them like so they don't really discipline them very much with the barking. Yeah. So once one dog gets to bark, then they all get to bark, or then somebody will leave and they'll leave the dog in the condo, and then the dog barks the whole day when they're gone. And so I thought it would be funny one day, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, during all this barking, I had a couple of adult beverages out on my back deck, and I thought it'd be funny to bark myself like all the dogs were barking. And didn't go over too well. Nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody wants to talk to you anymore in the complex. I thought it was very funny. That was nice. I think that's hilarious. Yeah. I figured the dogs are barking. Yeah, the dogs are barking. I think that's super funny. Way to make a point. But it's one of those
That's
deals
so
where
great.
you walk out in the morning and you realize what you did, and you're like, oh God, I don't know if I should have done that or not. But it's funny. It's funny
Nah,
stuff.
I would have done it. I always used to howl, and we would get
Oh,
all
did
the
you?
dogs. All the dogs would howl.
Yeah.
So you could get like when I was working up in Whistler with those dog companies, there's like over 200 dogs. So you could get all of them howling.
Oh,
And it was amazing. It was so great. And then if I did it at my place, once I had the dog sled company, and we had 18 dogs roughly. And I could howl and they'd all those dogs would howl, but we were kind of in enough of a close proximity to other people that people would hear.
oh.
Yeah, but it was fun.
So Barry Shelley writes in here, and you told me this too. Barry sent a video of you. We were in LA pulling pranks. Yeah.
Oh, that was super funny. That was a great video. Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Recovering prankster.
It's all about Jill. Got to say, Jillian is a lot easier on the eyes than Gresham now. That doesn't say a whole lot, though.
Thanks.
Say a lot. Those two guys are not exactly George Clooney anymore. So
well, thanks, guys.
You get the photography going. You get the painting going.
Yeah, it's kind of everything.
Yeah.
Trying.
So people that don't know too, if you haven't followed Jill, she's done a lot of kind of stuff that she's done in her life. She's gone up to. How long were you in Alaska?
I've gone to Alaska many times.
Yeah,
the longest expedition I did that included Alaska was a 50-day expedition, which was Alaska and the Yukon and British Columbia.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was northern Alaska. So it was like completely remote.
So it was raining all the time too?
Yeah. 45 days of rain and blizzard and sandstorms and
nice.
Yeah, everything. Mother Nature threw it all at us. Got hypothermia twice.
Oh.
Yeah.
So did you stay out there when you had hypothermia?
Yeah.
What did you just hunker down
both,
and get more?
Yeah, both times it was you either press an SOS button and you still have to wait for a helicopter to get there or somebody to get to you.
Right.
And you have to hope that you don't then succumb at that time. The problem with pressing an SOS button when you're hypothermic or in shock is that a lot of people then allow themselves to relax. Oh. And then that's when it gets you because you'll then be like, okay, they're coming. And it could still take days. I mean, the weather we were in when I was in northern Alaska and was hypothermic, there was no way anybody could get to us. It would have been days. Like it was socked in torrential pouring rain, and it somehow was pouring rain and -7. It was like the craziest weather, and this river was completely flooded, so no boats could go on the river to come and get us, and no helicopters, of course, can fly in something like that. So you press an SOS button, and then you have to wait anyways. And you just have that potential of allowing your mindset to be like, okay, they're coming. And then you just kind of sit back and don't keep holding strong mentally. And with hypothermia, when that starts to happen, you start to feel warm. And that's one of the big things is people that are hypothermic and die of hypothermia, they often find their bodies and they'll be naked in the snow or naked outside because you start to feel so warm and hot that people start to strip off their clothes and try to like get away from now the heat. And it continues to cool their body temperature. It's not that your body temperature has risen or anything. You're just going into shock essentially. So rather than press an SOS button, you don't press it and you have to talk yourself through it, and you're forced to get yourself through it. Which is just as dangerous, I guess, but either way, you're going to have to wait. So you may as well not allow yourself to potentially succumb and force yourself to do what you got to do.
You have a fire, obviously, because of the rain. So you just get in the tent and.
Yeah, the first time it was pulled off. We were pack rafting. There was another person with me who was guiding, and we had pack rafts, so like inflatable boats. because we had to fly in. You can't bring like a kayak or a hard shell boat. So you have to bring something that breaks down for a float plane or a bush plane to fly in.
Right.
And so we used pack rafts, and we wanted to be able to hike. So pull into shore, and it was get the tent as best we could set up. All we did was put the tent fly up, the rain cover. The way our tent works is you can set the poles up, and you can put the fly up, which is what goes over top of your tent. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like a cover. So then, because we are soaked, we're not then putting our tent up and getting into our tent and getting our tent all soaking wet. We can go under that and get out of our wet gear and change it into warm, dry stuff. Right. And so that's what we did there. And we put water on to boil to get hot liquids in us. The hardest part was we were at the point of he had dealt with frostbite before, so he was having a lot of trouble with his hands. Oh. And then because I was hypothermic, I was at the stage of there's like mumbling, fumbling, and shaking kind of. There's these stages, and I was shaking and losing ability to like feel and use my fingers properly. So trying to get out of our dry suits was really hard, trying to get zippers and stuff. So it was a good team effort on that. Wow. And then once we were in dry stuff, then we set up our tent, and then we got into sleeping bags and like just huddled in sleeping bags and in all our warm stuff and drank hot liquid. Yeah.
So, Jill, I'm going to introduce you to a former teammate of mine that lives close by, Ron Grester. We used to be roommates. So he's claiming that he roomed with me and he needed an SOS.
I could see that.
What? You can see, what is that? I can see that. So
all the pranks going.
Ron and I were roommates. Yeah, the pranks and everything. So one, God, it must have been like early 80s. We were out in California. I can't remember how to work, but it was Super Bowl Sunday. And we'd been out the night before someplace, I think in Vancouver or something, played a game. Then we flew down to Southern California. So we got in a room thinking, we're going to party it up in our room. We ordered like about, 24 beers and shrimp cocktail, all that kind of stuff. We ended up passed out when they kicked off, and woke up with a handing out the trophy. All the beer, the ice and the beer was all melted all over the floor. Big party guys. We couldn't even, we had to sleep during the day during the Super Bowl. So that's the wild Ron Grester, Tom Laidlaw story.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Barry Shelley's asking an interesting question here. Have you ever worked with wolves? We have a large wolf conservation enclosed area here with dozens of wolves. Have you ever done that?
I haven't worked with them in a sense of like training them or anything. I've gone to a couple wolf sanctuaries, and got to be among the wolves before. There's one called Yamniska Wolf Dog Sanctuary in Alberta, and I've got to go in with the wolves there, which was pretty amazing. Yeah, and then there was one where we had our dog sled site in Golden, British Columbia. There was one across the street that had Northern Lights Wolf Sanctuary. So I got to interact with those wolves as well. And we worked with them with feed. So we kind of teamed up on, we gave our dogs raw chicken and salmon as well. So we would kind of work with them when there were car accidents. This is so random, but when there was animal involved accidents on the highway near us, as well as semis crashed a lot in our area. That stretch by Golden is like the worst stretch of the Trans-Canada Highway in Canada. And so there's always accidents, and there would often be accidents with semis that were carrying food products. Oh. And so they would always just give it to, we could just go and get the stuff. So there was one that was a refrigerator unit truck, and it was full of chicken, chicken breasts, like human grade, like boneless, skinless chicken breasts. But as soon as there's an accident, even though the stuff was all fine, they can't, of course, sell it or give it to people. So there was it was like an obscene amount. And we went and got some. And then the wolf sanctuary, we had three deep freezers, and they were all full. And then theirs were all full. It was amazing.
Cool. Good. I had a little problem right here. I need to discuss with you.
Okay.
I think my dimples are. I've got better dimples than she does. What are you talking about?
You do have
Mine
good
are-
dimples.
Yeah, mine are better. Well, at least as good as yours, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Our smiles match pretty good
yeah, they do. Yes. Yes. Oh,
with
of
those.
course, Barry has to say that you've got better dimples. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Oh, so what's next?
it would be
What's
awkward
next?
if he said that you did. So
Yeah, you know what? Good point by you. Good point. Good point. Although I
Yeah.
did, I did have. I think if I told you a story, I did. I was doing business with this group out of Alberta, and we'd done a couple of business calls. And these two guys, and they were both married. And of course, it's Canada, it's hockey. They knew I was on Survivor, all that kind of stuff. And one guy during the conference call goes, "Tom," he says, "I got to be honest with you. I've got a man crush on you." And it's like, okay, what? That's good.
That's nice of him to admit it. Come on.
Yeah,
That happens
sure,
all
yeah.
the time.
That could, yeah, just sure, yeah. It could have a little awkward situation. That's fine. So what's next for you? What are you doing next? What's the big expedition? Anything happening?
Yeah, that's a good question. Trying to get back on my feet right now. Yeah, and then that in the downtime I'll be working on planning some things, but need some funds to be able to do that anytime soon. But I go back to Race Rocks for spring for 2 months.
Oh, you are? For 2 months?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Good.
And then in the summertime, I'll go up north. That's my plan for sure,
Right.
is go up, do
Cool.
some expeditions in the north, some paddling ones. And that's all in the works right now. I have a friend that reached out with an idea. And yeah, that hopefully, or if that doesn't come to fruition, then I'll create something else.
Create something else. So they want you back at Race Rock. That means you didn't screw up too badly. They want you back. Like you didn't make
Yeah,
a mess.
they did. I don't. Yeah, my supervisor didn't want me to leave either.
Oh, stop! No, I that's not what I heard. I heard he felt bad for you because, yeah, that's all.
He did feel pretty bad for me. He saw how stressed and overwhelmed I was because, yeah, he understands. He's one that gets along pretty good on a rock like that.
What was it? Pretty stressful though.
What's that? Getting back to civilization? Yeah,
Oh, okay, but not on the rock. There was like you weren't
No.
stressed on the rock that much, right? No, yeah.
not at all. No. The little things that happen, like the kind of people that they have to have out there have to be pretty calm and level-headed and be able to problem solve and think pretty quick, because the things that can go wrong out there can be pretty huge,
Right.
or else they can be so minimal, but they can be really frustrating and continuous, like the sea lions. It's like you fix one part of the electric fence and you turn around and they're destroying the part that you just fixed. So you have to be able to like stay calm and just be like, okay, like this is how it is out here. And then try to problem solve and see if there's a better way potentially to do something like hanging jar lids that clink, because they hated like that little clinking sound. Little things like that. But also because you're on a rock by yourself, when you do get frustrated, you can yell at the top of your lungs and swear continuously and be like, here's everything you need to do at the sea lions.
Yeah.
And then you kind of start laughing right away because the sea lions will look at you like you're completely insane. And yeah, it's pretty funny. So
That's true. Like there's nobody around except the sea lions. And you're screaming. They don't understand a word. I want to ask you something. This is a little bit of a serious thing, and if you don't want to comment on it too much, I'm sure you will want to comment on it. But in Chicago, we had a very bad story come out in the National Hockey League. In Chicago, with the Chicago Blackhawks in 2010, they had a assistant coach who sexually abused one of their young players right before the playoffs. The player went to somebody on the team, somebody lower down the team. And that person then went to higher ups with the team. It was right before the playoffs. They did not do anything. They did a little bit of a background, like they checked it out to find out that yes, in all likelihood, the story was true. But again, did not fire the person. In fact, the person stayed on and actually was in the room several times with the person that he had sexually abused. They then won the Stanley Cup that year. They allowed the coach to actually have his name on the cup. This is a coach that abused the boy. They knew that he'd done it, and then gave him the opportunity to resign. Wouldn't be an investigation. He did resign, left, and went up to Michigan, the northern part of Michigan, and was working with some high school kids and abused another high school boy there. He then went to the police, and the gentleman was sentenced. And now that high school boy, rightfully so, is now suing the Chicago Blackhawks because they didn't take any action. And there's a lot of people that were involved in the situation that I know on a personal basis. They're not really close friends, but from my agent business, knowing these guys, and I really had a lot of respect for them. But I just like they really, it doesn't really matter what your position was on the team as a human being. And you could speak to this, knowing what you went through. To know that somebody could have done something to stop another person from getting abused is kind of, it's a sad day. I'm so proud that I played in the National Hockey League and the people that I know in the National Hockey League, but I'm not very proud of that situation too. So I don't know if you saw that or not.
That's so fucked up. That's like a cop getting off with something because they're above the law in some way. Like that just shows that because somebody has money and a name in an industry, that they can get away with things. And not be treated like every other human being. But also that's just completely horribly wrong and just disgusting.
And I don't think people understand.
It makes it harder for other people to then start coming, like victims, to start coming forward because that happens so much that where the person that's done the crime gets away with, like most people the majority of I'm just going to say men that rape women. Yes, it happens to men and all these things too. But the majority of men that rape women, they get away with it always. Like 98% of the time they get away with it, or abuse. Unless somebody witnesses it, the likelihood that they're going to actually serve any time or have any sort of consequences is so little, and it's so drawn out and so hard on a victim, the system of it, that people just don't try anymore. So people are allowed to get away with it without consequence. So it just continues, and eventually it escalates like it did there. I mean, he did it again. Well, and
in those cases where people are pedophiles, whatever, they're sick. They're sick people who they're not just going to stop. If they've done it once, they've obviously done it before. They'll continue to do it unless they're stopped. So I just, that's such the disappointing part for me is the people that could have done, like grown adult men who have children of their own, made the decision for a lot, I guess, part of the conversation was that they didn't want to interfere with the team during the playoffs. They didn't want to get them off, tension off. Really, God, I mean, is that what's coming to?
I can't believe that I hate to say it, but I mean, I'm disgusted that the NHL allowed that, but also that the team itself didn't make a stand. Just because it's the playoffs. Yeah, that's fantastic. And yeah, you want to make all the money you can and everything. But what about humanity? You guys have this name in this industry that you could use to actually bring a lot of change and make a huge impact. And none of them just decided to go on strike for the playoffs until this guy was charged. Nobody did anything, which then also results in why would that teammate feel like he's a part of a team anymore? Because they're all supporting this coach, right?
In fairness, though, Jill, the NHL didn't know about it until way after, until just recently, 11 years later. But you're totally correct with Chicago Blackhawks. They knew several people. And the way it sounds like a lot of people in the organization knew about it. And again, it's adults that have kids of their own, and it's God, and some people say, well, this guy here was only an assistant general manager. This guy was a first-year general manager. It doesn't, to me, those issues don't matter. You're an adult human being, not caring about another human being, and you could do something about it. And man, it really got my. I think I told you the story. I actually should introduce you to Sheldon Kennedy. Have you heard of Sheldon?
I need more than that.
So Sheldon Kennedy was a player that I represented. He was playing for the Detroit Red Wings at the time. And going back to when he was 14 years old, he was sexually assaulted or sexually abused by his junior coach, which was Graham James. Graham had been named Coach of the Year in the Canadian Hockey League. He coached in Swift Current. and everybody just revered him as a person. He built this reputation that he was taking these troubled kids and helping them. The reality was he was taking these troubled kids and abusing them. So Sheldon came forward and went to the RCMP and had Graham James incarcerated. And, and I was, pretty involved in that story. So it really made me more mad that Sheldon, he went through some terrible times, both the abuse, obviously, and then single-handedly coming out. And there's other players that have been abused, and I don't blame them. They didn't want to come forward publicly. So Sheldon had to do it himself. And for him to go through all that and then have these guys just like Sheldon laid out the map for you. This is how it happens. Here's the pattern. Successful coaches, they use hockey as the leverage. I'll help you get to the NHL, but if you don't do what I want, then you're not going to get there. And that's exactly what apparently this coach in Chicago said to the players. He said, listen, I can ruin your career for you if you don't go along with this. And just an overall sad story, but
yeah, that's brutal. Another thing that's really like the people that do that and then go through that, they don't realize how much it impacts others around. Like so my dad and I used to coach soccer together for a bit, and then when I moved away, or when I went to university, I didn't have time. So he brought on another coach, a male coach, and he had coached a team prior. These were 12, 13-year-old girls. Mm-hmm. He had coached this team prior just down the road at a different community center. So he brought him over. That team didn't have enough players. So that coach brought a couple of those girls to this team and with him. And after the season was over, it was found out that he was sexually assaulting one of the girls that he had brought over. And it turned out that he was generally doing it at soccer somehow, at practices or games or something. And this came out, and I happened to be back at my cabin with my dad, and the other girl who's my age, who I grew up playing soccer with, she also was coaching, and she just found out about it by the press, started calling my dad and Angèle, this other woman, asking questions about it, and they hadn't been made aware yet. And then all of a sudden the police are calling them, and they were all now under investigation because it was going on at soccer. And my dad is on the board for the Canadian Centre for Child Protection.
Oh,
so he works really in depth with protecting kids, but because of this guy's choices, my dad had to step back from that role. And he was under investigation, of course. Everyone was questioned about the whole thing. And of course, nobody had any idea. But then the mental strain on my dad, the other parents, and this other coach, this Angèle, this other girl, was they then blamed themselves that they didn't pick up on it at soccer. So they then had all this regret and this thought of like, well, how did I not know? How did I not see this? How did I not catch on? Maybe I could have helped her, like all of that side of it, which is just so horrible. I mean, that's on that person that's doing the abuse. And obviously they're not right-minded anyways, because they're abusing children. But yeah, there's that whole other level that we generally don't think about.
It affects so many people. Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
I know. I remember when Sheldon Kennedy first told me about the abuse, like, I was that dumb old farm boy hockey player still, and I didn't know anything about abuse. And I was very lucky because the NHL and the NHLP had just started a program with doctors to deal, I think it's the Players Assistance Program, to deal with drugs, alcohol, any other issues, and this fell into that category. But it's been such an education to learn about how much this goes on, how much it affects people, like you said, the individuals themselves, the family members. Just sick. I guess that's what really drives me nuts with the Chicago story, is that this isn't a secret anymore. I mean, the work that Sheldon did, especially the hockey community, knew all about this stuff, and to just worry more about the playoffs and even of late, people have come forward now that knew about it and were interviewed. Said yes, everybody knew, and the people, part of the everybody, some of those people were going, no, I didn't know. Now they've done this to Chicago's credit. Now they hired a law firm and Chicago to do a thorough investigation. And totally independent. They were told you can do whatever you want to, talk to anybody. And now the investigation has come back and they've realized that, yes, these people that were saying they didn't know, yes, they did know. They were in a meeting together and were told about this. So, and again, these are people that I considered friends. And I'm kind of like, guys, like, God, it's embarrassing that, again, adults that are in charge of, young people. So, man.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Like, you make yourself look so much worse by being caught, not like that you knew, rather than just it saying, yeah, I knew, I just didn't know how to handle it. Like, we don't know how, like, that's the hardest thing. When I was in that abusive relationship, my family didn't know how to handle it, didn't know how to get me help. They didn't know what to do. That was going to be the safest thing, as well as the best option to make sure that I didn't cut them out and then result in something worse, right? Like, just if you just say that makes so much more sense than, well, why would you lie about that? You look like a total douche now.
I know, like, is that true?
Were you in on it then? Were you like, like that makes me question why, like, your motive behind why you wouldn't have said anything, or why you wouldn't just say, yeah, I knew, I just didn't know how to handle it or what to do. Like, you again, look like you're in on it in some way. And
and again, they're not thinking of the victim still, right? They're just thinking of themselves, just lying their way through it. Instead of like saying, you know what, I didn't know what to do. Like you said, I didn't know what to do. And I feel terrible now because I realized the victims, there's more victims because of my inaction. Just acknowledge it.
Those people should be just as guilty. They should be charged too.
I know.
Like in other countries, if like, okay, let's take Texas. This is a great example. Let's take what's going on in Texas right now with the abortion thing. You even know about somebody having an abortion and you can be charged like 10 grand. Just knowing about it. How come that doesn't apply to knowing somebody is sexually assaulting a child? How come that person who isn't saying anything isn't charged in some way? You're not just as guilty, but you're guilty in a sense because you're withholding. Like,
do you think it's
whether it's
doing? I kind of think it's that people don't know the damage of sexual abuse, right? I mean, they just don't know the scars, because people aren't walking around with a scar on their arm or a cast or limping around. It's internal, right? It's like it's what they're carrying with them all the time. I mean, you've been very open talking about it, that you got to the point where you contemplated, committing suicide, and that's I hear that over and over from people. It's just they just don't want to go on. So it's
and it's not it's not the physical aspect. People think that it's the physical side that's the hard part to get over, like if you have physical damage or whatever it is, but it's not the physical side that's hard, like getting beaten in some way or getting in a fight or whatever it is. Well, those bruises heal pretty quick, and it's not that side that's bad. It's that you have that so much question about yourself. Like, why me? Like, did I allowed this to happen? That's a big reason why people don't say anything. Like, nobody else is going through this, so it must be me. Like, it's that you start to self-doubt yourself, and it gets to the point where you just have no more self-confidence left to go on. That's the main side of it.
Yeah, it's disappointing, isn't it? Like, I mean, obviously you lived through your abuse and the stuff that I've been involved with. You're educated about it now. It's almost like really, you couldn't see through carefully enough to just tell the proper people so it stopped. It's not about your wins and losses. It's not about anybody's job. It's about stopping abuse. And that's the part that for me is just like, oh God, guys. And again, it's worse for me because I've been so proud of being part of the National Hockey League, and I still am. The National Hockey League as a whole, there's so many great people. It was a dream come true for me and all that. But to have people that I've been associated with that are doing that, it's like, God. Man.
Yeah, we can say that it's affiliated with the hockey, but that's everywhere. There's bad cops everywhere, and there's good cops everywhere. There's bad businessmen who are in it and just take and are do it for the wrong reasons. And then there's great businessmen who are empathetic. And there's all sorts of stuff. So we can't just like lump in all of the NHL. I think it's completely wrong that this person got away with this because they had a title and they wanted them to go to the Stanley Cup. Who fucking cares? Like, literally nobody
Well,
would like
Jill,
your
Jill, let me
fans.
interrupt you. Like, they were more worried. They were more worried that they didn't want the team distracted. This was an assistant video coach, so he wasn't even that valuable to the team. They could have fired him and let him go, and it wouldn't have changed anything. They're more worried about it was being a distraction to the team. And I'm like, what? That's like, it's unbelievable. But now,
You don't think like, but if they looked at it the other side, they could have viewed it as it bringing the team more together to support their teammate. Get the fucking coach out, because he's a coach. That's part of the team. But what about the team?
The coach was nothing. The coach was nothing.
They're supposed to be a team like that. Like, like there wasn't that side of it. You don't want to cause any riff in the coaches and in the team, but imagine what kind of camaraderie could have been potentially brought out by them making a stand together and carrying on, or making a stand and not to get that person out. Like that's what I would have done if I found out anything like that with our team, any teams that I've been involved with, like, and every team I've ever been involved with, all of my teammates would have would feel the same way, but like, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here at the New York Rangers, the last time they went to the Stanley Cup Finals, they had a player, Marty St. Louis, and he was a great player. And his mother died during the playoffs. He'd just been traded to the team. And it really, he had to leave the team for a couple of days, but came back. It really became kind of a rallying point. I mean, it was a terrible tragedy. Yeah. So, and even like, I know you think the same way, but even to think anything about what's going on with the team when it's abuse that's happened like that. And like I said, this was an assistant coach that meant nothing to the team. He was a video guy. It was so irrelevant to the team. That's the other part. I mean, it's never right, but let's say it's a head coach. Well, we can't do anything. It's a head coach. Still, then that's wrong. But when it's a video coach, it's like that meant nothing to the team. It just, I just kind of think to myself, like, were they that uninformed? And apparently they had policies in place with the team of how to handle things. And so they were prepared for it. Human resources went ahead and prepared for the event that something like that happened, but everybody just didn't follow the process. So terrible story. But I just thought, I wasn't sure if we bring it up or not, because you've been through all your stuff, and I just thought you could speak to it, very closely. So
yeah.
Okay, so we decided today that my dimples are as good as yours, right? That's basically what we figured out today. Right?
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Yeah, they're at least on par. They're at least equal. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's good to see you again. I'm glad you're getting back on your feet. You're getting busy. You got the commissioning with the artwork, the cars taken care of.
Yeah, some painting work. Hopefully some photography work here.
Good deal. Okay.
Yeah, I'm busy.
Now, did you ever notice? See, everybody gives me a hard time, Jill, because of my clothing choices. I tend to wear a black T-shirt all the time, and now that they give me a hard time about it, I cannot stop wearing it. But I have to continue to wear a black T-shirt.
It's your uniform for your podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. See, you understand.
You just put it on for that. I'm sure you were wearing like a colorful Hawaiian shirt previously.
Totally. And I got some pink shirts, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Oh God, this is getting worse. You know what? I have to really reevaluate. See, this is what I'm worried about. If I get you on the Thursday show, it's going to be it'll be the Jill show again here.
Awesome. Or one of the guys from Winnipeg?
There's one guy, Larry Melnick, who lives in Vancouver now. I think he said he's about 45 minutes from Squamish. And he was originally from Winnipeg. James Patrick was from Winnipeg. He's actually coaching the junior team in Winnipeg. And Ron Greshner is also on the show. He's from Goodsboro, Saskatchewan originally, so they're all Western Canada boys. But
okay, so on the last show they mentioned going to Winnipeg.
Yeah,
they were talking about going to Winnipeg, and I was gonna comment because my family's all in Winnipeg. I'm from there. I was like, oh, you'd have a place to stay, Tom. But I figured that would probably result in some sort of conversation ensuing. So
that's definitely what I'm worried about. If we get you on the show. There's some things we have to talk it through.
Okay, I think it'd be entertaining.
Oh yeah, there's no question. It'll open up a whole can of worms, so there's no question about that.
Yeah,
because part of the issue is
to the day that happens. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I'm such a smart ass, so they get any chance to get me back. That'll be good.
Oh yeah.
All right, good to see you again. Glad you're doing well. All right. we can't skip. Everybody counts on you on every Wednesday at 3:00. Okay?
Yeah, you too.
All right. All right, bud. Take care. See you, everybody.
I will certainly. It's on my agenda, and I will be doing my best.
Okay. All right. Bye, Jill.
Bye.
Bye, buddy.